carousel posts on Instagram. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do you just like them? Tell me in the comment section right now. Carousel posts on Instagram are multi-image ads that a viewer can swipe through in the Instagram newsfeed. You can even combine multiple images to create one dynamic image, helping you to capture the mind of your target audience. Oh, happy Halloween to all of our friends in the U.S. Now, in 2018, our social media scientist Scott Ayers did a study that found that carousel ads simply do not perform well in the Instagram newsfeed. But maybe the world wasn't yet ready. Will carousel ads perform better in 2019? Well, our social media scientist Scott Ayers dug into that subject deep and made some fascinating discoveries. Join us today as we investigate, do carousel posts perform better in 2019? Stay tuned, everybody. It's the Social Media Lab Live.
Are you ready to use science to bust some myths in the social media ecosystem?
Great Scott!
Welcome to the Social Media Lab Live, brought to you by Agorapulse, where our social media scientists experiment on real accounts to crack the code on social media success for your business.
Type 5 to subscribe to the show.
Now your hosts, Owen Video and Scott Ayers.
Hey, welcome back to the Social Media Lab Live, where social media professionals like you get to bust the myths, rumors, and stories of social media with science. We're live every Wednesday at 9 a.m. PST on Facebook, and you can join the tribe when you give me 5. That's right. Type 5 right now in the comment section below to join the Social Media Lab Lounge, where you get insider access and contribute to the show in our private Facebook group for social media nerds. Just type 5 in the comment section below right now. Hey, I'm Owen Video, your host MC, and I'm here with the #1 social media scientist, Scott Ayers. And our show today is powered by Agorapulse, the #1 social media management tool for social marketers and small business. Want to schedule posts, respond to comments, and get more customers, all from one easy-to-use interface? Get agorapulsenow.com is your social media management solution. Toss your old software away and start your free trial today. Hey, Scott, good to be with you today. Are you ready to bust some myths with me today, my man?
I am. I'm excited to talk about this one. We've done this test a few times, and so it's kind of like a retest of a retest.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, though. I mean, we want to always make sure we got valid and new data, so it's kind of why we're talking about this once again today.
Yeah, I think it's good to retest. You know, like I had a girlfriend that, I think she was unfaithful, and I was getting tested all the time. Just retested. I should look this way though, so that it gives the appearance that I'm actually
right.
Looking at you. Is it hard to do a test and then retest again? Do you ever feel like you're going through the same stuff over and over again?
Yeah, I mean, at times it can be because you've already done this. You kind of already know what should happen,
right?
Or what happened before. You kind of have a little bit of bias, but I think it's good though because what happened in 2018 may not work in 2019. Heck, what happened last month it may not be valid this month. So it's always important for us. We're trying to retest some of our most popular experiments that we've done. Maybe once a quarter we'll retest one. So it's kind of what we're working through is constantly retesting those different things.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. It keeps you fresh. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the audience. I really do want to know, do you like these carousel posts? Do you love them? Do you nothing them? Do you hate them? Like, what's your opinion on carousel posts? I'd like to know. I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. We got Dustin Stout out there watching us today. One of a good friend of the show, Dustin Stout.
Love Dustin.
Naomi Nakashima, who is absolutely the funniest person not posting to a business page. Like, she could just post the things her kids say, and I don't even care if they're true. I really don't. If you make these up, Naomi, like they're fantastic. Of course, I'm kidding. The funniest things that her kids say really just crack me up. And so we're glad to have you out here, Naomi, today.
Kids say the darndest things.
Yeah. They made a new version of Kids Say the Darndest Things, by the way, and it was so bad. It was so bad. Yeah, I watched it on, I was like Netflix or Hulu or something. I couldn't even get through it. Rock Davis is out there today. He says, I love them. Gonna be using them to advertise my business. I got to tell you, I like them too. I like some of them. Like the ones that are really dynamic where you can kind of like, it looks like one long image I really get into. There's some real estate ones I really like. Scott, on a personal level, where are you with carousel ads?
I mean, I'm not really into them, to be honest with you, because when we've tested before, and the reason we're testing this again is the first time we tested it, listen to this data. This was pretty interesting. This will kind of set up our future test.
Yeah.
We saw about a 26% decrease in likes.
Yeah.
And about a 37% decrease in comments. And so, and the reason we kind of thought at the time that it was that way, it's foreign to us, or at least it was when they launched. Because typically on Instagram, you're on your phone, and I'm doing my thumb. You're just thumbing up and down. You don't do left and right. So when stories came out, it's kind of a brand new thing to kind of have to stop and go left. And so we kind of went against it, but Instagram stories now are out. And so we do a lot of left and right in stories. So it was kind of interesting to kind of test this again to see if maybe that sort of mindset is translated over to carousels. But me personally, when someone posts a carousel, typically I'll look at one or two.
Yeah.
If they posted 10, I'm not getting to the 10th one.
Yeah, very rarely.
Ever.
Even on a good one, I'm like, ain't nobody got time for this.
No,
I got time for your time images, pal. Your 10.
Right.
But here's the thing. Dustin Stout says, as a user, they get annoying because they show up multiple times in the stream. This is something I really like about carousel ads, right? So like I might pass a carousel ad and I see image number 1, and I just kind of, without flipping through the ads, I'll see that carousel ad again in the news feed the next time I log in, but I'll see it'll be on the second image. And I feel like Instagram is sort of trying to get you to see these. I mean, you are uploading more content. I think that the challenge is like, what's your lead image? And how do you get people to know that there's more? I mean, they've got the 3 dots on the bottom, right? That could sort of tell you, like, you could be flipping through these. But when we're thumbing through so fast, you don't always really notice that. And so I'm always thinking, like, how do I get someone to really, like, know that they can flip through, multiple ads? And so, hopefully we can talk about that today on the show. Want to say what's up to Jason Shea, my man in Seattle. Great to see you. Robert Caruso, Gregory Vaughn, Jesus Muniz, and Brian White watching us on the Agora Pulse page. We've got a couple of watch parties happening. We've got Lane Etheridge, Katie Fries, Ozeal watching us, and Matt Adams all checking us out on my profile. And in the Video Marketing Learning Center group, we got Rock Davis, Stephanie Liu in San Diego for my, she's one of my favorite friends on Instagram. We're chatting all the time, especially because we've both been injured recently. We've got Peter Hines and Ed. Now, so. Yeah, Ed Weinberg is watching us as well. So thank you guys for watching. And hey, if you know a social media manager that is not watching us right now, be sure to tag them in the comment section below and invite them to the show. I'm pumped to be here today. I just got back from a huge conference in Chicago where I got to hang out with my oldest son and sort of expose the business to him. And it's really cool. It's really cool to travel and do some of these business events with your kids. But can we show some of the images? Do we have some of these images here? Chicago was a beautiful town, if not completely freezing. We went on the architecture tour and we got to see these amazing buildings. You could see this is us on the boat right there. And you've probably seen some of these buildings. We were right by the Trump Tower. Trump was there. And so, you walk into the hotel, there's all these there's cops everywhere. And, they're telling us like, hey, there's going to be protests, so be ready for that. Like, don't let it disturb your keynote. But it did a fantastic workshop on video marketing. And I only say it was fantastic because the people were just so into it. So I had them all create their 1-year video content plan. We actually had like 17 people create a 1-year video content plan. And then we had like 12 people actually write their first video in the workshop. So that was really cool to be there. I want to thank our friends over at Content Jam for inviting me out. And remember, if you need a social media scientist to come speak at your event, this way. We've got one right here, guys. You can reach out to the show. We'd love to work with you.
Yeah.
But that's enough shameless promotion for today, Scott. Let's talk a little bit about
Shameless
carousel
plugger.
ads and have things changed. Now that the user base knows about carousel ads, are they going to be more effective in 2019? Now, you didn't think so, Scott. Tell us, what was your hypothesis?
Yeah, I mean, what we have said in the last 2 times that we've tested this is basically our conclusion was Instagram carousels suck. And so that was literally like the title of the last post. Instagram carousels suck. I didn't do it for this one, but my hypothesis, again, based on the previous data that we've done, was that Instagram carousels result in less reach and engagement. And like I said, we've studied this previously on the Agora Pulse account, personal accounts. We looked at influencers and social media and kind of looked to see what they were doing on the carousels. People like Subi Zimmerman and Brian Fanzo.
Right.
We looked at Starbucks account. We looked at Dallas Cowboys.
Cool.
We looked at Instagram's actual Instagram account. That was the interesting one. Back when we did the test the first time, Instagram was posting carousels, of course, because they just launched like 3 months before. This was in like late 2017, and the carousels performed so bad on their own account, which was very ironic.
Wow.
That on the actual Instagram account, they were not getting as much engagement. So we looked at all those things before, and that's kind of where I came to this conclusion. But like I said, when we started this, it's 2019. A lot of things have changed, and so it was worth looking again to see if this was something that is going to get more reach and engagement and worth you as a business, using in your marketing strategy.
That's a great point, and do they perform better for, certain types of businesses or others? So, Scott, run us through the experiment. What accounts did you post from, and what types of posts did you create? I mean, creating a bunch of carousel ads seems like kind of like a heavy project.
Yeah, I mean, so we use 7 different Instagram accounts for this one, so it's probably one of the largest kind of accounts that I have used.
That's
Usually we
massive.
just use 2 or 3, so we use 7 of them, and they're in a couple different industries. I have 2 fitness related Instagram accounts. The fitness industry is massive on Instagram because it's so visually oriented. So we use 2 different fitness accounts. I use one that's based around motorcycles and just kind of dirt bikes and Harleys. Cool. One on animals, a lot of cute little animals, and just kind of fun with that. Motivational images account, which gives me, I think that page has 13,000 followers on it, and it's crazy, and engagement levels. And then one on trucks, and then one that we can probably actually show some examples was I have one actually dedicated to Paris. Touring Paris is kind of what I call the account. I don't mind showing that. And the rest of them we don't link to anywhere. Because we're not really looking to get followers, but we're a company based in Paris, even though I'm in the middle of Texas right now. We're actually based in Paris.
Well, they say
so
Texas
cool.
is the Paris of America. They do. That's
well, there is a Paris, Texas, if you didn't know this.
I know. I know my colloquialisms.
Yeah. You should Google Paris, Texas. I actually have been there. They have an Eiffel Tower. It's a lot shorter, but it has that red cowboy hat on top of it. It's
That's
very
hilarious. That's why I love Texas.
Funny.
There is a
so
Paris,
funny.
California as well, Perris, and it reminds me, a little bit of an armpit.
An armpit. Is it that bad?
It's right in that glorious section of California that's all desert. You guys got to remember, Southern California is like 80% desert, and then there's like Malibu and Los Angeles.
Oh man,
and beautiful San Diego. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, Paris, Texas is kind of northeast, almost Oklahoma, up in that area there. But so what I did is, for all these accounts, we publish single images and we alternated back and forth between single images and carousel images, and that's the schedule that we stuck to for all 7 accounts. And we used Agora Pulse. Shameless plug alert. We use Agora Pulse to schedule it because now you can schedule carousels through apps like Agora Pulse.
Yeah,
you still get the push notification. You have to actually go and finish it on your mobile, but you at least can schedule it, and then you get through the mobile app. You can publish it through there. So it's still kind of there. But that was the schedule. We alternated back and forth. And I'm using high quality images. I've embedded in the original blog post, and we can't show an embed here, unfortunately. I've used really high quality pictures of Paris, of different parts of Paris throughout that that test. Some of it was just the Eiffel Tower. Some of it, yeah. Oh, look, we do have the embed. Look at that. Yeah. Good job, Melissa. You're awesome. So there's just pictures of Paris. Some of them I took. Some of them I've got stock photos and used. And that's kind of what we posted throughout each account, specific to that account, of course. So we didn't just post Paris pictures to all 7 accounts. We were very specific, on what they were.
Okay, so we've got a couple different accounts here, and really what it looks like some Instagram-esque accounts too, right? Because
right.
Instagram is a highly visual platform, and I'm even noticing that the higher quality images that I post are going to get more attention. It's like I've experienced with my own accounts, like business type posts or just like friendly type posts, something that's like entertaining to a general human, I think performs better on Instagram. And so I'd love to see how these things perform. You mentioned that you used Agorapulse, which our viewers can get a free trial of Agorapulse at getagorapulsenow.com. It's our favorite social media marketing tool, and they are the sponsors of this show. I'm not sure if you guys knew that.
I didn't,
but
know
I thought we'd just mention it right there.
Yeah, and if you don't know as well, if you use the coupon code LIVE, LIVE, you'll get once you get a paid account, your first month's free. So you not only can you get the trial through getagorapulsenow.com, whenever you sign up, use LIVE, and we'll give you your first month for free.
I had no idea that we were doing that. We've got to get a lower third that says that so we can.
We do.
Did you see our guy?
Hey, yeah, look at that.
Yes!
Science!
That's one of our new tricks, everybody.
Let's lean in and somebody get a screenshot of him like picking our nose or something. Like, can we lean in? You lean in too. Can you get it? Wrong way.
Oh, he's punching me in the face. We're actively losing viewers as we speak.
Hey, shout out to some viewers. I tried doing a couple of watch parties. I've got one in our own group, the Social Media Lab. I did 2 in other people's groups, and they instantly deleted it. Sorry. That was kind of funny. But the cool thing is in my personal profile, this is the interesting thing. Owen and I are actually testing this.
Yeah.
So you're part of our test. I'm seeing a lot of my personal friends, like old high school buddies that I haven't talked to on Facebook in a long time, hopping in. Rich Diaz, Jack Smith, Kevin Fisk. I went to driver's ed with Kevin Fisk. He actually drove us to driver's ed, even though he didn't have a license, as funny as that is. Yeah, it was a 30-mile drive too. Jeremy Pruitt, Michael Hafferkip, Johnny Snyder. Johnny Snyder is like this mammoth dude who's like, I don't know, 6'4", 300-something pounds. He's played a bouncer in a bunch of movies.
Oh, that's great.
Real cool dude. So yeah, appreciate you guys hopping on here and getting to see what I do. Yeah.
Welcome to the show. Yeah, we're doing a bunch of watch parties, and it's interesting. It's cool to see who pops in and who. I got a lot of people from my church logging in. They probably have no idea that I do this kind of thing. So that's what Owen does,
Right. Yeah, it's kind of fun though. I mean, at least you don't have to explain it. I've actually thought about, and we're getting off track. That's okay. I actually do our opening announcements at our church, and I've thought about like just walking out dressed up like this and act like nothing's going on, and just give the welcome announcement, say a prayer, and go sit down and
you
see.
You could even like carry like a swinging thing of incense. I think to just add to the churchiness of the whole thing. But we just lost another viewer. So let's bring it back on track. So you've got these posts. You've posted all these different carousel posts. You've loaded them up into Agorapulse, and you're testing them. So what we're doing is, Monday at 8 a.m., a carousel posts go out. Tuesday at 8 a.m., a single image post goes out, and you're doing that for a week. Now, did you add hashtags? Did you boost any of these, or this was just all organic?
No. Yeah, all these tests that we always do, we always want to be as organic as we possibly can. So there's no hashtags used. We don't tag any locations. We don't tag any users. We don't use these posts in paid ads. We don't share them to Twitter or to Facebook, and we don't share them over to Instagram stories. All those things are things I would recommend you do with your Instagram posts and a normal sort of marketing strategy. But for organic purposes, we don't do any of that.
Great. So talk to us about what you learned. What data came back to you?
All right. So the data was pretty interesting here. We're going to look at just percentage differences instead of the raw numbers, because the raw numbers can kind of get blah. So what the data shows us is the likes. Remember I said earlier they were really low? Last time we tested, the likes were 28.72% higher on our carousels versus the single images on Instagram. Comments, look at that number.
Yeah,
comments
huge.
were actually 72.09% higher on our Instagram carousels on these 7 accounts that we tested. Last time it was like 23 and 36% lower in both of those categories. And then reach was 4.43% lower. And that's been almost consistent every time we tested. So
Reach
all
was
3
lower.
times we've yeah, it's weird. You think the engagement being higher, that it would actually be a higher reach, but it was actually a little bit lower. And every time we've done it, we've fallen in that 4 to 6%, I believe, lower reach on Instagram carousels. But the engagement being through the roof like that really shocked me, to be honest with you. I don't know about you, but those numbers are massive.
Yeah,
to me.
now that's a big change from the test you ran in 2018, because the test
Right.
you ran in 2000, and I wish we would have brought an image of that. It's too bad. The test you ran in 2018, the carousel posts were lower across the board.
Oh, yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, there was like a 25 to 26% drop in likes and like a 30-something% drop in comments. Where this time around, it was totally opposite.
Everything
than what
was
we
higher
found.
except for the reach. So you're getting
Right.
less reach, but you're getting far more positive engagement. Now, why do you think that is? I want to ask our audience, and I especially want to hear from Lily Tree, who is watching us on YouTube, and she says, "General human is my target market." I love it. I love it. And Dustin Stout says, "What exactly is a general human?" So I didn't realize I was stepping in it right there with that phraseology. I'd love to hear from the audience, guys. Why do you think Instagram carousel ads perform so much better on Instagram a year later? Type your answers into the comment section below, and don't change your answer based on what Scott says right now. So Scott, why do you think, without getting too nerdy on us, like, why do you think they performed better a year later?
I think it's part of that culture change, just like Dustin has mentioned, in the comments. I think the culture has changed a little bit. We're a little more used to on Instagram to grabbing our phones and going left and right in stories. And so now it's not as uncommon for us to swipe left and right. And as well, I mean, Instagram carousels have now been out for over 2 years.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a feature we're used to. Think about, what is it, like 3 years ago? Messenger on Facebook launched, something like that.
Right.
We weren't used to. I remember when Timeline launched or the news feed launched, we were all like, whoa, what is this? This will never take off. I think this is kind of one of those instances where over time now people are a little more used to it, a little more accustomed to it. And it's something we're embracing, just like Instagram stories, even though that was embraced faster than the carousels. But I think it's just a culture shift. And I think people are used to that sort of action, even though I think overall engagement on feed posts are a little bit lower for people in general because of stories. I think people are a little more intrigued by the Instagram carousels.
Yeah, Dustin Stout agrees with you. He says, looks like it just took a little time for the culture to catch up with the new format. And that's where I would sort of go, is that people didn't really know what to do with them. And I think now we're also seeing some interesting ways to use the carousel ads. I did a carousel post that was showed me at a conference taking selfies with people, and I said, like, how many people can you recognize in the swipe right for more, swipe left for more, whatever it is. Got tons of engagement on that, and I see other similar posts that are like, quizzes, and they're sort of like, that you go to the bar. And they have that game that you can play where, like, the question comes up and it's like you got to answer the question in less amount of time and you get more points. I see carousel posts that are like that. What I'm surprised at is the lack of reach, and I'm surprised because carousel posts have added engagement,
right?
Features, right? Because you can swipe, you can double tap and you can comment. Just like you can share and you can save it, just like you can on every other post, but you have this added swipe thing. And if you've got 5 images in a carousel, that's 5 engagements on a post. And so I would think that Instagram would want to get those out, especially with this algorithm that, we'll put image 1 in front of you, and then if you don't swipe through, we'll put image 2 in front of you the next time you log in, or maybe even further down your thumbing, depending on when how long you stay on the platform. Would love to hear from you guys. Ashley Oliveira is saying it's more similar to stories in many sense, in a big sense. I think that makes sense. People are used to stories. How many of you, by the way, geek out on stories at least a couple times a week? Maybe not every day, but a couple times a week. I'm a couple times a week guy on stories. Like, I don't get into it every day, but when I do, I sit and I watch it like a TV show. I really do get into my friends and their
You kind of like
lives.
you Netflix and chill. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of. I almost get to this point where it's like it's too much work to scroll, so I just kind of put the phone up and just let the stories roll and see, sort of see who's going in. So Randy Ryan is asking a question. He says, "What was the number of images that worked best?" Apologies if I missed that. I don't think we really talked about which images.
No, we
best,
didn't. And I think, Randy, that's a great question and something I should have tested, and I didn't test it. And now I have an idea for another test.
Did you control for it? How many images did you use in the carousels?
I mixed it up. Some of them had 5, some had 7, some had 8, some had 9. Most of them had 8 or 9. So it wasn't necessarily strategic as far as the amount that I use. I kind of just randomly did it, kind of like users would do, because typically as a user, you might have 4, you might have 8, you might have 9. So, and I didn't measure it independently. Now I may want to go back and look at that. And Randy, I'll try to see if I can find some of that info for you and shoot it over to you. But that would be an interesting thing to look at. Now that we know that carousels are getting more likes and engagement compared to our single images, how many in a carousel is a great test idea, Randy. Good job.
Yeah, I'm like, when I see the 10, I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? And because I don't, but I think that 5 for me, like that 4 to 5 is sort of that magical number for me.
Right.
Rock Davis is watching in the Video Marketing Learning Center group, and he's saying, carousel ads stop the scroll, and people are now trained to understand that there are more pictures to see if they swipe left and swipe right. What I'm really interested in, I want to say what's up to Carlos Phoenix, streamer buddy. Just logged in. What I find is those little dots at the bottom, right? Those little dots at the bottom, they're kind of tiny. And so they really appear, and those tiny dots tell you if you can swipe, they tell you there's more images to see. And I think that they're so subtle that it's going to attract a certain type of user, a user that is really skimming and really taking in the entire page, and you're looking, it's like the way we look at YouTube thumbnails, right? You look at a YouTube thumbnail sort of in conjunction with the other thumbnails on the page and the title that's next to it. Rarely do we go to YouTube, type in a thing, and just zero in on that thumbnail. It's more like you take it in as a whole, and then you start to look at the individual components. And I think that's how a lot of savvy users use Instagram. You're kind of like looking at this post as a whole. Does the image attract your eye? How many comments? How many likes? And are there dots down below? You're sort of taking this all in a split second, and then making a decision on what to zero in on, like an eagle. Like an eagle scans the land and sees a lizard and is like, whoop, I'm gonna go grab that lizard. What do you guys think about that? Is that like too heavy of an analysis? And Jesse Thomas is asking a question. He says, what are some of the pros and cons of using graphics versus photos? Now, that's really interesting. Scott, what insight can you provide us on graphics versus photos?
We've done a test before, and I'll have to go look at it. And we haven't done it for carousel. We did a test before on photos versus graphics on regular posts. And if I recall, the regular photos of people outperform. Now, it would be interesting to do a carousel graphics versus photos and see how that does. But I'll look for that, and I'll post it in the links on the comments on the original post here. But from what I recall, the graphics didn't do as well as photos of people or buildings or things like that.
Don't you just love how we engage? We're live every Wednesday at 9 a.m. By the way, and you can type 5 in the comment section right now to subscribe. If you're watching in a watch party, you won't get the chat bot automation, but Scott and I will come back and send you the link to you can subscribe so that you'll get an alert each time the show goes live. And we want you.
I found the data on that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Great. Yeah. I want people to know that they can subscribe to the show because, I love coming out here every Wednesday at 9 and engaging with you guys. I get so much insight from you guys and understanding where you guys are in your journey. And I just saw, just even this whole graphics versus photos. That gives us a great idea for a future study. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comment section. What do you have any ideas for future studies that we should do in the Social Media Lab Lounge? Think this versus this. I'd love to hear from you guys, but I don't want to take away from your brilliance. Scott, go ahead. Please continue.
Just to answer that graphics versus photos. When we test this before, graphics versus photos got about 156% more likes and over 300% more comments compared to, graphic created images. Now, it wasn't in carousels. That was in single image posts, but it would be interesting to go back and test that one again, because that one is a little bit dated. I think it was in April this year, so it's only a couple months old. Yeah, but it would be interesting to kind of do that in carousels as well. I posted the link in the comments if you want to go hop over and look at that one.
So Scott, at the end of the day, what was your hypothesis? Proven or not proven? Let's review the hypothesis and sort of where our study lands today.
Yeah, our original hypothesis, you can see, was that Instagram carousels would have less reach and engagement. It did have a little bit less reach, but not that much. But the engagement was through the roof. And so for me, based on that data, it seems that Instagram carousels are performing well in 2019. This is late 2019. And it's something that you as a marketer should probably consider. Think of like you have an event and you want to showcase a couple of images from the event, or if you're doing recipes, you want to showcase how to do the recipe, or woodwork and show the steps of whatever it is that you're doing. So think of different ways to use it. Don't be shy on it, and test it up. I think the important thing for all of us, is you shouldn't do the same thing all the time forever, because the algorithms on Instagram constantly change.
Yeah.
User preference constantly changes. So you want to mix things up. But when you do tests, do it at least 4 or 5 posts of differences and kind of see. Don't just do it once and then say, it didn't do well.
I love that.
It may just been a bad post. Or bad
yeah,
time.
I love that. When in Chicago yesterday, I was doing my keynote session, and I admonished the group to make 10 videos before you sort of make a pronouncement on YouTube, right? And so you make one video, we didn't get $1 million in sales. You got to do a bunch and sort of like look at the analytics and see if it's worth continuing. If you can improve upon that. And so as you guys are sort of running these tests, we'd love to hear from you too. I would love to hear, hey, if you run a carousel ad or a carousel post, did it perform for you? And I would encourage you to even boost it if you're boosting things. Like, give us that data too. Like we would love to dig into that study, and it would be kind of cool to use the businesses of our viewers.
Exactly.
Right?
We did that
That'd
one
be kind
test
of cool.
already.
Kind of see some new data. Now, I want to give a shout out to Jesse Thomas. Jesse, are you still watching today? Let me know in the comments. Who has got he's Facebook certified, so that's cool. He's asking a great question, and I was actually wondering this myself. He says, how do you feel about having a title image for the carousel? And he says, I focus on infographic design, so almost all of my content is graphic. So here's what he's asking. He's asking, like, you're going to upload 5 images or whatever to a carousel ad. Right. Should that first image be like a title image that says, like, hey, swipe left, or, 5 reasons to do X, swipe left? That's a great question. To me, the answer is, like, I think that's worth playing with. In fact, the reason I don't do carousel ads is because when I have an idea for one, I don't have a title image that I feel really grabs the audience and tells them to swipe through. Right. Scott, what are your thoughts on that? I know you haven't run a test on this, but what are your thoughts on that? Should you have a title image?
I think it would be interesting. 2 things there. In this test that we did, in every post, I did say swipe left to see more. So just so you kind of have, I did give them instructions to go swipe, just to try to see if that would help. I think it would be a great thing to do. The first time people see it, they're going to see that cover photo, if you will. The second, third, fourth time, they may not, because as we mentioned, sometimes, like I was looking on Instagram a minute ago, I've saw a carousel now 3 different times from Jennifer Watson, who's our social media manager.
Yeah.
And I've seen image 2, I've seen image 4, I've seen image 1. So they may not see it every time. The first time they should, I would think. But after that, they may not see it, and then it's kind of they don't know what they're looking at. So I think it would be interesting to test. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and we're getting a lot of great feedback to what other tests should we run, and want to say what's up to Ayaz Ahmed and Mike Mike. I've decided if I can't pronounce the last name immediately, I'm just going to use the first. I got to be quicker about it, though, and stop pronouncing half of the last name wrong. But Mike S., it's good to see you out there today. Claire Raphael is saying you guys should run a test on video versus static photo, and I think that would be a great post. Naomi Nakashima is saying the same thing: video versus photo, but also video carousel ads. Right? I've got a friend on Instagram who's always posting carousel ads, and I actually see this a lot. But what it really is, it's like a 4-minute video that instead of posting on IGTV, which is what I think you should do, they're sort of posting, 4 1-minute videos on carousel, and you've got to swipe through. But I don't know. Like, I don't enjoy that kind of post because every time you swipe, it's the same thing. You're almost conditioned to when you swipe, you want to see a change of scenery in some way, shape, or form. And when you swipe, it's just the same image. It kind of like kills it for you. So, did any of the carousel posts that you posted, Scott, have video in them?
No, they were all photos. Yeah. No graphics, no videos, just straight high quality photos.
So many great tests to run, like video carousel posts and whatnot. And I think running these engagement carousel posts that are like trivia or how many people can you name? And I loved that because it caused them to swipe, but also to comment, right?
Right.
It causes them to swipe, but also to comment. Ashley Oliveira is saying it would be interesting to find out if there's a correlation between composition and or order of content in carousels featuring photos, texts, and graphics. Yes, Ashley. That would be deeply interesting because that is a crap ton of data right there. That is so much data. But that's seven different studies right there.
It would be, yeah. I think it would be interesting to see that if we compare. And that's maybe I thought I was done testing Instagram carousels, but maybe I'm not. Maybe we need to do a little bit more testing on. One thing I am testing right now, which is a little bit more difficult to test, is the grid layout. Where you post 9 or 6 photos and it kind of creates just full image. Testing that right now to kind of see what sort of engagement those posts get. Or does it confuse people when you're just posting a segment of the photo? One of the fitness one was kind of interesting because it was a picture of a woman working out, and one of the squares, I was like, this square, I'm not going to say what it was, is going to get the most engagement based on
the bikini
what
square,
it was highlighting.
obviously.
Yeah, it was highlighting her chest, and I was like, I can't really change it now. I already got started with it.
That's very French. It's very French of you to.
Right. She's close, but I think the grid thing is everybody does, and we'll see them. The creativity that people do on Instagram, we'll see them, but does it really help? So that's one of the things I'm working on now. That one's going to be out. It'll be a while before I get done with that.
And I'd love to see it from you guys in our audience that watch the show and you participate in the show, because you guys are mostly social media managers of some way, shape, or form. Like whether you're posting for clients or posting for yourself. I think that it'd be interesting to do a carousel post of weight loss when you've got the first image says before, right? And that sort of lets you know that there's more to see, and let's see the after pic. Or, if some of you are doing food channels, you could be, compositing, sort of an item that you're making, image 1, and it's the step 1 on the imagery. I would love to see what you guys are running as carousel posts. And if you run across something interesting, please share it with us. Jesse Thomas is asking another great question. He says, and we mentioned this earlier, he says the carousel displays the other images in the carousel for subsequent views. Does it advance the image every time it displays? I have found that is the case, but I haven't found necessarily, I don't recall ever getting to a third or a fourth image. Like I could have, but I don't actively remember ever getting to a third or a fourth image. Maybe you guys, have you guys experienced that? What I've seen Instagram do is I'll see one image in the carousel, and if I don't flip through the carousel images, I will see the second image in the carousel again in the news feed. And that's almost a guaranteed. I've been noticing that recently. And so I'm really curious as to why carousel ads aren't getting more reach if you're getting, it's almost like posting 2 images in a day, right? On Instagram. So I would love to see that. Danielle Gerlov is saying signs. Yeah, I love it. Danielle makes signs. And by the way, you guys should go check her out. She makes the greatest little signs for, anniversaries, birthdays, marriages, and all sorts of great stuff. But yeah, Danielle, you could show like an image of a blank piece of wood, and then the wood with the paint, and then the paint with the word, and just kind of show a sign being built. I love that. Jesse Thomas is saying, I've seen a Q&A where they do an image in the carousel as an answer, and the first image is a question. See, I love that, and I would love to see if you guys have some access to some of those posts. Show it to us, and we would love to dig into to some of the science there. So parting wisdom, Scott, should we be running carousel posts in our social media campaigns? Do you think that these are important enough to give access to? What's your final analysis?
I think you should use them and not abuse them. I think there's a place for Instagram carousels depending on what type of content you have, or if you can kind of theme in something like you did with your event. Hey, you recognizing these people, stuff like that. If you're just going to post 8 random photos that don't make any sense and don't correlate, don't do that. But mix it up and put them in maybe once a week, see what sort of engagement they get, and then kind of play around with some of these ideas that we just mentioned.
Would love to hear from you guys as well, and what your carousel posts, Instagram posts, Facebook, YouTube. Share with us the data that you're discovering, and you might even be featured in an upcoming show. That's all the time we have today. Remember, you can type 5 to subscribe to the show. If you're watching us in a watch party, you won't get the chat bot, but we'll reach out to you personally. We'll see you next week on the Social Media Lab Live.
Thank you for watching the Social Media Lab, brought to you by Agorapulse, where we use science to crack the social media code. Join us live on Facebook and YouTube to find out what's working and what's not working with social media.